Hello, hi. Okay, how's it going? So nice to have you here. If you're catching this live, that's awesome. Just waiting for everything to kind of like sort itself out. I was originally thinking I was going to do this on my iPhone. I'm just checking the color, the light situation. I was actually originally going to do this on my iPhone, and then I thought, no, I'm going to do this on the computer. So hopefully this is working well for everyone. All right, so as I said, welcome to day one of the free live training of my Powerful Purpose method. So you're going to get a little bit of a snapshot of what my method's all about and what I'm all about as well. But before I get started, I did want to acknowledge that I'm hosting this live stream on the lands of the Ngunnawal people. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of traditional custodians of the land in which you might be meeting and seeing this here today. And I would like to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people that are participating in this training. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, let's get going. I have my cup of tea here, freshly brewed. Hopefully it's not going to be too hot for me. I'm going to try and remember to take a few deep breaths and talk slowly, because I do like to get a little bit excited and energetic about these things. So this is a 3-day live stream through Facebook, but I will be repurposing this video and this training into a podcast, and then also into an email that I'll be sending out for anyone that catches the replay. So you can catch the replay straight here on my page, and so if you do hit hashtag replay for me, if you're on here live with me, let me know. I'd love to have a bit of a chat with you if you feel called. But if you're catching this on the podcast as well, then please hit a like or review this and let me know what you thought of this training. So I thought I would give you a bit of an outline of what the next 3 days is going to look like. But first off, how about I introduce myself to you a little bit further. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bree. I am a soul alignment coach. So what that actually means is I'm a life and success coach. So I look at, my passion is around helping people find their purpose, and once they have their purpose, to help them, to support them to live that purpose and continue to live their life as they, work through that that transition and that transformation. And in addition to being a life coach, I'm also a neurolinguistics programming practitioner. I'm a emotional freedom techniques practitioner, and I am a clinical hypnotherapist as well. So have a few techniques and tools in my belt to support people in their journey. But yes, a lot of this method was designed before I had all of those things, and as I've added to my tool belt, I've added more resources into this method. So this method in itself is a 6-phase program. So you can essentially do it in 6 weeks. You can take 6 months. You can take 12 weeks. It's however how long you need to transition and to discover your purpose. It took me a lot longer than that. So I've definitely, because I had to figure out how I was going to, how it was going to work for me and what tools I was going to use. So I've kind of streamlined and brought all of the things that I was playing with at the time into one nice little neat package. So the whole, as I was saying, the whole purpose, the whole method, is basically 6 modules or 6 chapters. And I've sort of divided them up into 3 days in this training. And the first day we're going to be covering resetting and recalibrating. Tomorrow we'll be talking about dreaming and doing. And then on Thursday we will be discussing or looking at your insight and being more in tune with yourself. So if we might get started on the first day. So as I said, we'll kind of talk through, I suppose, my journey a little bit and how I've gotten to where I am, and then we'll start to kind of like come down into the tools that you can use yourself. So probably, maybe around 2 years ago, I had a bit of a wake-up call about how I was living my life and how I was actually showing up in my workplace. And I found that, I found, and other people just, told me that the way I was behaving was not actually, it wasn't in correlation to the way I saw myself and the way most people saw me as a person. And what I discovered was that I was living my life for other people in the sense that I was going with, what they had decided was the right path for me as a career or as, my purpose. And so I kind of got a little bit caught up in that, and how I was showing up was kind of trying to keep up with, like, all of the masculine energy that was in my workplace, and keeping up with, I suppose, things that weren't aligned with my true self. And so I found myself like acting a certain way, talking a certain way, and behaving a certain way that was not in alignment with who I truly am. And I realized that I was wearing a mask. Probably about a year ago, that's what I realized, how I was showing up was with a mask on and trying to pretend to be someone else. And that was where I suppose I realized that, my purpose in life is actually now to help people find their own purpose and to find, who they're genuinely, authentically supposed to be. I'm going to try not to say too many buzzwords, but this is in that space where we are very much, like everyone is always looking for their purpose. Some people find their purpose and then they get off path a little bit. So if you're someone like me, I've been struggling to find my purpose for a long time. I remember, when I finished school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so I kind of just went with what my parents suggested in a way. Like I had some choices to make and I had some, like my own decisions, but I wasn't really sure, so I kind of went with what other people were suggesting. And so I'd love to know if, that's you as well, if you're watching now or you're catching the replay or, any of the other ways that I'm going to be distributing this later. I'd love to know if that was something that you did as well, if you kind of, went with the flow in a way. I used to work in a university kind of situation, like a environment, and I would see, year after year, students going to university and not necessarily like dropping out. Some people would, but kind of not following their own path and not feeling like they, liked what they were doing. And they were just doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. and then you get a job, and then that's what you're supposed to do. But really, when you find your purpose, what happens is everything makes sense. Like your whole life makes sense. The life that you want to live starts to appear as being realistic, and that tends to be what people get caught up in a bit as well, as like, this is the sort of that next phase, next tomorrow is that dreaming kind of part of things, just dreaming about the life that they wish they had, but then some people don't take that next step of actually doing. But before we get into dreaming and doing, we want to actually reset and recalibrate. So that's what I did in 2 years ago. I started to reset. I started to look at my life and look at who I was. And, I had some time off over Christmas and January, so I was really able to dig deep into who I was really and who I wanted to be. And the way that I did that was I would look at things like going through my journals and my calendar and my photos, anything way that I've captured like memories or times in my life, and look at what I felt the most drawn to. So I kind of just did a chart where I had things that were positive and things that were negative. And I would absolutely recommend people who are sort of just starting out on this journey, starting out, to find who you are and what you like and what you're all about, is to go back to last month or maybe the month before. And if you capture this in like a planner or a calendar or a journal or anything like that, flip through, and as you do, have a column that's all about your positives and then another column that's all about the negatives, and write down what you notice as a positive for you in your life, what you really enjoyed, what you felt really lit you up. But also you need to look at what you didn't enjoy, what things you you found yourself like getting wrapped up in, or that were even just like a negative experience for you that you don't want to repeat. And that in itself can be a really enlightening tool. At that time I was doing that every month for a couple of months, just to get a feel of like what things were pushing my buttons and making me feel a certain way, good or bad. And if I would look at those two columns and I would say, so what do I want to stop? What do I want to start? And what do I want to continue from those lists? And so when we look at the stop, we might look at those things on the negatives that we can have some sort of control over, and stop that behavior or stop that that occurring again in the future. And then looking at what we want to continue from the positive list. What was there a trip away with a friend or a partner, or was there some sort of adventure or something that happened in your work or in your personal life that you were really excited about and that you had, that was joyful for you? And look at how you can continue that. Maybe you can book another trip away, or maybe you can ask to be on a particular project again that you really enjoyed at work. So you get a feel of what I'm saying here. You can actually control how your life pans out. Things do not have to just flow and just happen for you. And when I talk about flowing, I'm not talking about, the positive side of flowing. I'm talking about going with the flow, letting things unravel for you, letting things happen to you, not for you. And I definitely was living my life that way. You know, it wasn't that I was having, like, had a horrible life, or, you know, everything was wrong with it. It's just that I didn't have ownership of my life. I didn't have ownership of how things were playing out for me. And so, you know, if something good happened to me, that was awesome. See if it happens again, who knows? If something bad happened to me, I mean, I would probably try and avoid it, but maybe I wouldn't be aware that it was even happening as a repeated, you know, something that was repeating over and over again. So, you know, if you're looking at patterns, your diary or your calendar or your journal or your phone, photos, Instagram, all that sort of stuff that you're capturing memories in, those are going to tell you what's actually going on, and really feel into how you feel around those occurrences. Let me just take a little break with my cup of tea. A little bit of a breather. So let me know how you, if that kind of resonates for you. You know, is that something that you can see yourself trying? And do you think you might have some trouble locating some of these memories? You know, do you not keep, do you not have a memory keeping kind of system at the moment? And if so, then now is the time to start. At the time, I was actually keeping a bullet journal. And so for those that don't know, bullet journals are a form of productivity tool, but you can also use it to help track, you know, what you're working on and things in your life, events and activities. And so for me, I was using it in that way, and I could look at once a month what I had been doing and look at what you know, brought me joy and happiness. So if, as I said, if you don't have something set up in your life already, then that would be my first step for you to do from today. My little bit of homework for you. So I wanted to talk a bit about, you know, that resetting in that space, but also a really beautiful way to reset your life is around decluttering. Now, no, I'm no expert in this, in the sense that I don't have, you know, a perfectly minimalist house with completely, you know, everything decluttered. But what I have done is I've minimized the amount of clutter in my life. And I'm not just talking physically, like physical decluttering. I'm talking about mental decluttering, technological, like apps, you know, software, things on your desktop, the, you know, like the notes that you keep lying around, post-it notes in front of you. I've got a few at the moment. That physical and mental clutter really affects how you think and how you behave, because if you're not aware, there's actually, at any given moment in time, there's 2.3 million bits of information floating around coming at you. And we as people, as human beings, can only take in 128 bits of information at any one time. So if you think about all that information, 2.3 million bits of information floating around, you know, right now I'm here talking to you, there might be a dog barking outside, you could see leaves rustling in the background, you know, there's lots of things happening. And our brains are filtering that all the time and deleting and distorting and generalizing it. So our brains can only cope with a small amount of information at one time. So if we're living in clutter, if we have physical clutter around us, our brains are really struggling to cope with all of that. So, you know, I'm looking at my desk at the moment. I've got lots of beautiful things to look at, and my brain has actually not maybe deleted that information, and I don't see that anymore. That doesn't become clutter. That's actually just things for me to look at. But if you have, piles of paper everywhere on your desk, like piling up next to you, and your brain's, like going, where's that thing that I need? And that sort of thing, we often kind of start to feel really uncomfortable and overwhelmed. That is where you're, you're going to struggle to even imagine a life that you want, like you can't picture the purpose or the direction that you're heading towards because your brain is too caught up on the current thing in front of you, like, the amount of paper in front of you, the dog barking outside that's distracting you, like that sort of things capturing your attention. So if we can start by resetting and deleting some of that clutter and decluttering things that are physically, overwhelming you, overburdening you, then you can allow space for opportunity for other things to come in. And where I'm talking about that is things like establishing boundaries, tracking habits, creating a your morning routine so that you have some space for you in the morning before you start, like worrying about everyone else and work and all that sort of stuff. And then things like finding your ideal week and how you want that to play out. If you haven't decluttered and if you haven't looked at the things that are like keeping your brain kind of preoccupied, then you're not going to be able to start resetting, like really hitting the go button and going forward, because you're going to just be always stuck in this moment. Does that make sense? So let me know if anyone's sort of been caught up in like their current life and just like how things are running for them. I would love to hear about that, and how that's affected you. So the other part of what I wanted to talk about today is the recalibrating. So once we have reset and gotten ourselves back to a nice sort of I guess new normal, like we're saying this a fair bit at the moment, aren't we? But getting yourself in that space where you have like a blank slate, then we can start to recalibrate, then we can bring new energy in. And that's where reviewing those last 3 months, or maybe even a whole year, if you really want to go there, that's where those things can really help you look at, what your life should be like because of what you're enjoying in your life currently. Another tool that I love to use is it's based on a theory called the hero's journey. And I do forget, I should have probably written down to quote who it is that came up with this theory, but essentially, if you think about any movie or any book you've ever read, novel obviously, we have a journey that the hero goes on. And basically that looks like, it's a circle, let's say. They start off and they're on like their little expedition. They're going to find a thing or search for, like a new treasure, let's say. And they get to a certain point and they find their mentor, and that helps them like to the next step. And after, like they come across some sort of challenge or problem that gets in their way, they've got their mentor there though now, so they're able to like move through. And they get to the center, the middle of their journey, and they find that they're in this sort of phase of death and rebirth. And so, like, the way they looked at their life before has changed, and now they're starting to come around into the final part of the journey, and where they are overcoming obstacles, and because they have this new way of thinking, they are able to do things that they could never do before, and they find that treasure, and like they come out of the end of the the story with that treasure or that thing that they were looking for, and that is basically, like the premise of a lot of movies and books out, kind of like where you have, a main protagonist that you're following through their journey. So the theory is that our lives are set up this way as well. We have, a cycle of heroes' journeys all through our life, where things get in our way, things make, us really shitty or upset, or they screw with our lives, and then we find our mentor. And our mentor will help us through that next, learning stage, where we start to figure out who we are and what we're doing here for, what we're here for. And then you get to like this opportunity to come at it from fresh perspective. You have a death and a rebirth. And then you come back and, you achieve the goal that you were looking at, when you originally started out. So the idea is that, everyone has those types of cycles in their life. And you might actually already, just as I was talking, thought and remembered, that happened to me last year, and I can see how that has played out over and over again. So one of the steps that I get my clients to do in the Powerful Purpose method is to look at their life on a timeline and look at patterns that have shown up for them over and over again. And some people are really amazed with, what actually comes out of this, because they hadn't realized that something was playing out for them on a number of, over a number of years, because there'd been like a gap, or there hadn't been something obvious that tied it together. But once you can look at your life in a whole, holistic perspective, and look at it in chunks and time chunks, and identifying, big occurrences in your life, then you can start to see the patterns. And with that, you can learn a lot about yourself. You can learn about how things haven't worked out for you, but you can also learn about how you can overcome those obstacles again in the future. So I would love to, like to hear if anyone has any hero's journey stories that they would like to share with us, or maybe just even trying that technique, that tool of writing your life out on a timeline, and looking at, your life from when you were born until now, and seeing if there was, looking at increments of 5 to 10 years, depending on how old you are and how long you want to make this line, and looking if there's patterns that you had from earlier on in your life that have reoccurred as an adult or a teenager or whatever. That would be one of the main tools I would definitely recommend trying out from this training. So in module 2, which is that sort of recalibrate side of things that I was talking about, we are establishing things like, the top 10 things, your top 10 priorities in your life, and noticing that in order for you to, achieve something at the highest level in that particular category, other things need to be at a lower level. You can't have everything all at a level 10 in order to have a fully fulfilled life. You're going to have to sort of compromise some other things in order to get to a really high level. The other way of looking at things is you can have everything at like a 7 or a 6, and never go for like top 10, 10 out of 10 level in this particular category that you're working on. So it could be career, it could be spirituality, it could be health and fitness, it could be, relationships, those sort of things. You'll have to, in your life, you're going to have to compromise some areas of your life in order to achieve them at a higher level in somewhere else. So we look at those things together and see, how they're impacting your life. We also look at journaling as a self-discovery tool. So I'm a big advocate for journaling, but I didn't journal at all for most of my life. I was that kid who tried to do the Dear Diary business, and tried to have like a diary, and I just never really got it because it wasn't something that worked for me at the time. Whereas probably like 2 years ago, maybe less than that, 18 months perhaps. Here's my dogs barking. Sorry about that. I'm just going to have a sip of my tea while they're barking then. Journaling, right. So yes, I hadn't actually been a journaler until probably 18 months ago when I heard about the idea, like the concept, which is morning pages. And that's from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, where basically what you do is you have 3 pages that you write in a notebook or a journal every day. And that doesn't have to be anything profound. It can be whatever is in your brain, just spilling out onto a piece of paper. And so that could be, the weather is beautiful and blue skies and today, and we're going to have some rain later on, and oh, the dogs are barking, and like anything that's in your brain can come out, because all it is establishing that practice of just letting things come out for 3 pages every day. You can tweak that. If 3 pages is too much for you, you can change that to, or you don't have enough time in your morning to write for 3 pages, you can change it to 30 minutes. For 30 minutes, I'm going to write in my journal as much as I can. And it's a practice. It's a thing that you're doing every day. And eventually what happened for me is what will happen for everyone if they do continue with the practice, is that organically I've started my own journaling practice now, where I will script or I will do visioning, or I might just do a bit of a brain dump. So there's so many different ways you can approach journaling. Often we get caught up on like not knowing what to write, and so sometimes like finding journaling prompts online or through mentors or like social media people on social media that you follow. Sometimes finding prompts is actually how you can help bring that information to light. And like in this module, we're actually going through like journaling to become a practice for you into the future, because for me it's absolutely a tool that I use to work through a lot of deep things that are going on for me, and establishing ways that I can move forward and up level and bring new life into my life. And the other thing that we go through in this second module is goal planning, and particularly looking at SMART goals. And with SMART goals, you can actually really map something out that's quite vivid and captures a lot of detail. And when you have a lot of detail, you can actually start to visualize this goal in your future. And in the Powerful Purpose method, as resources that I offer, you actually will get a timeline therapy audio which will help you to map your goal into the future. And by mapping something into the future, you're actually creating that goal to happen in the future. So instead of it being like a dream and sort of like something that floats around and being something that, you know, you're considering doing or possibly going to do, when you map it into your timeline in the future, you're setting it into the future. You're setting it for that date in that time, and everything that you do, while it's because it's there, you will do everything as you need to when you need to actually achieve it, because it's already achieved in the future. This is sort of getting a little bit maybe quantum physics style, but basically when you have something mapped out for you, it's a way to manifest something in a really profound way. So SMART goals is something that we touch on in this section of the Powerful Purpose method, and we go through things like 3-month goals, 6-month goals, and 12-month goals, and then you can kind of work backwards to actually, you know, the steps that you're going to take, the action you're going to take, which is what we start to work on in modules 3 and 4. So that is probably the big kind of like summary of what the Powerful Purpose method, my method for finding your purpose, is all about. So as I said, we're only touching on the first 2 parts of the method today, the first 2 phases. So we covered off resetting and recalibrating. Now I wanted to talk to you about like what the Powerful Purpose method is. So I have created this as a nice container that you can opt in and out of as you wish. So basically, there's a few different ways you can access Powerful Purpose method. You can buy an ebook that is all 6 chapters. You can read through it and do the activities as you wish, at your leisure, whenever you want. The other way to do it is through my Powerful Purpose method course, which is actually probably more of a mastermind, because we have fortnightly group calls where I will coach you through what you're going through at the moment in finding your purpose, in figuring out, you know, how you're going to live your purpose, what you need to do, you know, and help you be accountable in, you know, this time as you're going through all of that. So those are the first 2 ways you can do it. Now with the method through the course, you'll actually get all these additional resources. And so some of the resources I already mentioned for the first 2 phases, is the timeline therapy audio where we put in the SMART goal into the future. But also I have an audio guide on what I like to call my morning magic. And so that's that morning routine that I was talking about earlier, where I'll help you establish one so that you have some time and some space for you in the morning before everything starts to take off. And basically, you know, in a nutshell, morning routine is exactly what you need, not based on anyone else's suggestions or, you know, recommendations. You will tweak and play with a morning routine until it becomes exactly what you're after. And you might find that you only need one thing to do. You know, like you only need to do one thing every day for it to feel like you have invested that time in yourself. So some people like to read. Some people like to listen to podcasts. I personally like to journal as a default, and you know, see what comes out of that. Sometimes I'll pull an oracle card as well. So those additional resources are available in the course only. They're not available if you were to get the ebook by itself. Now, there is also an additional upgrade. So there's a VIP upgrade available as well. So what that looks like is it kind of just turns this whole experience, this whole course, into a one-on-one experience as well. So you get a course and you get a one-on-one experience. So you'll have 6 weeks of Voxer support. And Voxer is like a messaging app where you can voice note or text or send photos through to me and get support, in your pocket whenever you need for 6 weeks. There's also an option to upgrade to one-on-one sessions. So 45-minute one-on-one sessions every week for however long you want. So as I said before, you can do this for 6 weeks. You can do it for 6 months. It's how long you need to take in order to find your purpose. There is no prescribed timeline on this. But the way I've designed those VIP upgrades are based around a 6-week timeline. But it's, as I said, you can opt into certain things. You can opt into the Voxer, you can opt into the one-on-one support, and you can combine them, or you can have like the one-on-one that is, once every month. It's up to you. Like, you don't have to go with 6 weeks of. It's whatever you need. So one thing I wanted to leave you with about Powerful Purpose Method, the main function that I wanted to create when I have a group, and so this is a Facebook group where we have a number of people that are jumping in on our group calls, diving into the content, the audio guides, the videos that I've recorded, and the workbooks that I've written. I want to have a community. I want people to help each other, to support each other, to find your purpose, to live in your purpose, and just reinforcing and so, supporting what I'm offering in that group as well. And so community is a really important part of this, I feel, because it helps us to be carried through this, like you'll start to find people that you can connect with in person or online who know what you're going through because they're doing it as well. You're obviously going to find your purpose. Like, this is guaranteed way to find your purpose. I have had a number of people do this, and I have had every single one of them find their purpose. Some find it really quickly, and others take the whole time, to kind of like let it filter through and kind of like fully gestate. It's probably the best way I can explain it at the moment. Like really sometimes people take time to go, like they need to go through the whole steps, the whole 6 modules in order to find what they needed to find. But you will find your purpose in this program. And the other part of it is transformation. So you will transform yourself, and you will start to see transformation in, your family, in your community, like whoever in your work, whoever you are connected to will also start to be transformed because you are as well. And so it's not just about your own personal transformation, it's about this bigger kind of picture transformation. So I think that's probably what's like the most beautiful part of it all. So let me just let you know the pricing so that you get a feel of what we're talking about. The Powerful Purpose Method ebook is $66 Australian. There is currently a lifetime access pass available for 3 people to the group program, and that is $222, and that is a one-off payment. Once you make that payment, you're in that group forever. you'll always have access to those videos, you'll always have access to those live calls, you'll have access to all of the content and any additional upgrades that I make to this program, because I'm going to be continue to evolve it. You'll have that for life, one payment only. After those 3 people join, because there's only 3 spots as I mentioned, we will be changing the payment type, the payment plan I suppose, over to a membership platform. And so that will mean that every month you'll opt in to this membership, and it's $22. So basically, however long you need to access this membership is how long you will, be signed up for. So you might take 6 months, and it ends up being, a certain amount, or you can take a whole year and just be in there the whole time with those group calls, because that's what's there for you. That's what's really important for you. So it's totally up to you. There's no cancellation. You're opting in. It's not, something that you're locked into. So that is probably all I needed to talk about today. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, the first 2 phases, then please drop some questions below. If you're listening on the replay, then send me an email, send me a message on Instagram at thebreeboucher.com. If you're listening to the podcast, send me a message through whatever platform you're listening to this on now. And I will see you tomorrow, when we're going to be doing all the good stuff. My favourite section of this program is dreaming and doing. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a daydreamer from way back, but what I've done is I've changed the daydreaming into doing, and I've made it become my little way to make things happen for me. So I would love to share that with you tomorrow. If you're going to be able to join me, that would be amazing. Same place, same time. And if you have any questions about the method, please hit me up. But you're welcome to continue joining this live training for the next couple of days. And I'm going to leave it there, because nothing else is coming out of my brain anymore. I think I need to have a bit of a break. But it's beautiful to chat with you today, and I will catch you same time, same place tomorrow. See you later.